Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of April, and I'm joined by James and Stephen. Good to see you both. Obviously, at the weekend, we're watching the semi-final Scottish Cup against St Mirren, and we're obviously looking to kind of put right the wrongs of the last time that we faced St Mirren at Hampden, and obviously we did so with a 6-2 victory. But it was quite an intriguing affair. I think quite traditionally, as we have seen this season, Celtic take a lead, and then eventually we get pipped back. And I guess that the extra time, that was the unprecedented part. We've not really seen that from Celtic. And I guess before I forget about this, Neil Lennon in the commentary, I think you guys might have been at the game, so you might not have heard the live commentary if you've not watched it back. But Neil Lennon repeatedly said during the game, he was on co-coms, and he said, he might not have been co-coms, I think he might have been one of the guest presenters, but he said that he's been waiting for Celtic to burst into life, and he felt that he saw that. An interesting comment, but we'll get to that. So, James, to start off with yourself, you were at the game. What was your takeaway points from it?
It was Celtic 25-26 encapsulated in one game. I thought the first half we were extremely comfortable. Hit the woodwork twice. Two good goals. St Mirren no laying a glove on us, and then the second half conspired to throw it away. I think that I can't remember the St Mirren interim manager's name. He said something about that if they'd scored 10 minutes earlier, it would have been really a lot more interesting. And he's probably right. If they'd scored in about the 80th minute, then it would have been a proper uncomfortable time into injury time. And I think the third goal, when we scored to make it 3-2, and then scoring the fourth goal so quickly, I think that just utterly knocked the stuffing out of St Mirren. And bang, bang, another two. 6-2. 8 goals, all scored at the opposite end of Hampden for us. So it was like the reaction of the other fans was how we knew it had actually hit the net. It was Hampden's just an absolutely stinking stadium.
Aye. James, obviously a crazy game. I guess whenever it went to 2 each, and St Mirren looked to be in the ascendancy going in extra time. What was your thoughts on that, and were you kind of surprised at what you actually witnessed in that first half extra time?
Yeah, right when the extra time started, St Mirren were probably the better side for the first couple of minutes. They were pressing and probing, and then obviously Forrest dropped a shoulder, hung a beautiful ball up, and he actual cracking header. It's something that I can't think of how many times we've not done that often this season. A winger to actually hit the byline and just stand across up at the back post. The only other time I can think of is in the 2 each game at Ibrox, where in Grin stood one up at the back post for Tierney to header in. I thought the first half we played really well. Second half we were absolutely second to everything, and then once we got our noses in front, I think we just pushed on, and it was for that point. Looking back, it was never in doubt. Although when the third went in, I was still bricking it because we're so prone to just snap. It's just we're just so prone to just throwing things away.
Stephen, to get to yourself, not focusing on any particular event of the game, but I guess talking about players, I get perhaps the man who stole the headlines in the end was Iheanacho, who came on as a sub and he scored 2 goals, a header, which James spoke about, and another one, quite a fine finish, quite nonchalant, no backlift at all, looked quite classy, albeit he scored into a 17-year-old keeper who was making his professional debut. I want to talk about Iheanacho to start with. We've been crying out for a striker. Schmeichel was dropped from the 11, not only just dropped from the 11, he wasn't even in the squad. Adamu, who'd actually made the bench, and I think O'Neil made a comment that Dama who'd done really well in training, and people need to start performing and impressing, and that's why he got his chance. But obviously Chvanchara was bombed out. We thought that we were going to be resting our hopes on Chvanchara, but I'm driving at the fact that Ian Atchell popped up with 2 goals, and which is really quite encouraging. So what did you think of the flashes of brilliance from him, and can we possibly depend on him as our main striker between now and the end of the season?
Well, we've not got a forward or a striker like him or as good as him, do we? In terms of ability, in terms of someone who can finish like that, it's got the physical strength that he's got. But he's only thought we've got that actually wins a header anyway, so that straight away makes him a hot commodity amongst us. I think yes, he could be that man that we really need, that talisman to really see us through here and get us a double. But we've said it from the very moment he put pen to paper on a deal here. Is he going to stay fit?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't. I can't recall a time where he played 3 or 4 consecutive games. It's always been like maybe a start there, a sub, and then you don't see him again for the next 3 or 4 games, and it's always been problems with fitness there.
I can't quite put my finger on it about his fitness, because he's been with us since relatively the start of the season, and the guy is still in his 20s. It's not like he's...
Is he?
He's still in... I'm sure he is. Let me just double check.
I was convinced he was 32, 33 or something.
So was I, but I might be wrong. My malfunction with any actual is that I don't think he can start a game.
He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 in October.
Oh wait,
Jesus,
that's his prime years.
Yeah, so
I thought he was older than that.
So why is fitness still an issue with this guy? I can't put my finger on it.
I'm not his nutrition. I couldn't tell you, mate. But I don't know if is it laziness? Is it? I mean, he's far from the only footballer that's like that. There's been many like that before him. There'll be many like that after him. It's one of the great mysteries of football, isn't it?
Aye,
players with great ability, yeah.
Aye,
but and that's it away because they'd rather do other things.
Aye. Well, you do wonder if is it an attitude thing? Is it his body kind of failing on him? I don't know.
I don't recall him ever being an injury-prone player when he was at Man City or Leicester. Do you? He never got a really bad injury in early his career in that, did he?
I don't know. I certainly remember him to be a more mobile type of player. But the thing is, and I guess it's quite a reactionary opinion, because a lot of people have been obviously seeing the quality from him in that game, and they're demanding he has to be our main guy between now and the end of the season. But we've only got 5 games to go, and especially the final week. We play on the 10th of May, the 13th of May, and the 16th of May. So 3 games within 7 days. We can't depend on Kelechi for, even if Kelechi somehow does well against Falkirk and Hibs in the preceding games. There's just too many games in such a short space of time that we will depend on him, but we're going to depend on everybody. And there'll be certain games where, like playing against Rangers at Parkhead, where we might need to play Maida through the middle because of his pressing pace, or do you do him on the left? So Kelechi, he can't be the main guy in all 5 games. He will play a part, but we're going to have to use everybody, which is worrying because we've got a lot of passengers. One of those passengers from the game was Tinetke. I think he did well with one moment in the game, but overall he was taken off obviously as a substitute. But I just felt he was quite lacking in quality and intensity. And I think we know that he's not a proper athlete, so he doesn't have the running back ability like a Yang would do. He doesn't have the ability to go up and down the wing for a full 90 minutes. I think defensively, he's a liability, and that puts a lot of pressure on the fullback. James, Tinetke, I guess another wider issue is, do you want to keep him for next season? But Tinetke, he's got quality, but does he apply himself every week?
So I think I think Tenetke is nowhere near good enough to be our starting left winger, but that's not his fault. I don't think he's pish, but I don't think he's the Messiah either. I think that if he was playing, coming on, every time you've seen him and he's had a decent enough game, it's always been when he's come on for the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes, because the opposition fullback's tired. He's had somebody else running at him, and then Tenetke comes on and he does something. So he looked good he looked okay in the 2-2 game when he came on against Rangers. Him and Hatate turned the game. When he comes on, he seems to be a better player than. Yeah. And I actually think that way Iniacho as well. Would Iniacho have looked like, because he stunk the place out against Dundee United. He stunk the place out starting against Dundee United. He came on as a sub. The defenders had been not torn apart, but they've been harrying and chasing Maeda the whole game. And I think the problem is, I think we've got a team full of people that only look good coming on for 60 minutes. Hatate's like that. Iniacho, I thought Maeda played well in Sunday. It's probably the best game he's played in quite a while.
Aye, his energy levels were right back to where they were, and that's what we've been crying out for. You know that with quality it's hit and miss with Maeda, but his energy levels were great, and obviously that was a catalyst for the first goal.
I think it was a return of the Ange Maeda.
I thought he played well. I thought Ralston played well as well, but then he was up against somebody that wasn't a technically great football player. That's obviously where Ralston struggles when he's playing against somebody that's actually a football player. But he was just playing against somebody that's powerful and strong, and so Ralston done all right, took his goal well, but obviously again another player that's he shouldn't be anywhere near our first team.
See, for the Ralston goal, I thought it was like quality. See the actual, I think was it Tenetke who had drifted in from the left.
Aye.
Played a great ball to Yang. I thought Yang's first touch was quality, because we don't do this enough. Like we're like we cause an impact with our first touch. I think we're too ponderous. But the first touch, he opens his body up and the ball goes into space, and the defender wasn't thinking about it. And then obviously he back heels it. Mm-hmm. And now I don't know what it was like for you guys in the stadium, because you've got a wider view. But whenever Yang back heels it, the camera was quite focused in. So you're like, who's going to get the ball? You didn't know if Gogic was going to get it, but he was the nearest defender for Mirren. You didn't know who was in the background for Celtic, and then Anthony Ralston charging and let the cavalry. And that hit, it was a belter of a hit. And obviously that was the 17-year-old goalkeeper who was in between the sticks for that, but he never had a chance. A belter of a goal.
We didn't do that enough. We had a 17-year-old goalkeeper and goal for them, and we didn't hit enough shots. You were right, Iniacho's shot, no blacklift, it was a hit. And when we hit shots, we scored goals. And the second half, I can't think of a clear-cut chance we had in the second half. I think that I just don't know what's happening to us. We can only play for certain periods of a game.
Well, one frustrating thing about the second half was, you might recall it, Kieran Tierney, who managed to kind of progress down the left wing. He was primed to cross it in, but for some reason he just had a mental block, and he ended up passing it back, and the ball from the final third of the pitch wound its way back to Sinisalo. But it was even more perplexing, because about a few minutes later, Tierney gets the ball again in a great position like that. And I think this is the only chance that I recall in the second half was that the Celtic created. Tierney in a similar position, he puts in a great cross, and it's Yang who hangs up in the air quite well, and he headers it off the bar. Great move by Celtic, but it was just quite frustrating. And I think that the crowd during the game were getting quite annoyed. I don't know if you guys felt it in the stadium. Callum McGregor comes to mind, passing it back, not progressing the ball. he just kind of seems risk averse. What did you guys think about? Well, Stephen, what did you think about the mood in the crowd? And did you notice those moments of like the moans and the groans whenever we're passing it back?
Oh yeah, you heard that there was your usual shouts or take someone on, fuck's sake, and take it to the wing or stop going back to the goalkeeper. The usual stuff we were shouting that when Rodgers was still in charge. Being safe without being adventurous, the kind of stuff that we got really, really frustrated with under Rodgers. And we thought after 1-0, because we scored so early, and the number one goalkeeper having that utter shocker, and he just had clearly decided to go off because he was kind of shell shocked in a way from what happened. I was thinking, look, their goalkeeper's having a shocker. They've just put on a kid that's still in high school, for God's sake. Why are we not going, attacking this goal here and put it under pressure? It could be 4-0 or even 5-0 before half time. It's a semi-final. Why are we not identifying that? That's the kind of stuff I was, yelling and shouting. It was a strange performance all around. It's there was good performers, there was bad performers, as we've touched on. Maeda was one of the better ones. Ralston was one of the better ones. Yang was one of the better ones. But then it's there's no, it's not, it's I don't know whether it's balanced out or imbalanced out. It's a hard one. You've got Teneke just not knowing what to do almost as soon as he got the ball, not making those runs at the byline or anything. And then you had let's not forget Sinisalo. Very nearly had that shocker.
Was it 2 or 3 instances where he got caught on the ball?
Two.
So the first one, he's about to swing his foot at it, takes ages, and then the St Mirren striker gets in his face, and he has to almost fish out the net. Funnily enough, the referee actually blew it for a free kick because the ball hit off the St Mirren guy's hand, and so it wouldn't have been a goal. But just that, and again, it happens later on where he's dallying on the ball and he gets caught as well. And I don't know if it's a case where he's looking for movement in front of him and he's not seen it. But I felt that when we back at the midfield. Say it again. Sorry, is my feed okay?
Aye, it's mine. You broke up a minute ago there, Stevie.
Stephen, can you hear us?
Aye, sorry. Can you hear me?
Aye. So I was just talking about Sinisalo
and
maybe a lack of movement. What was it you were going to say?
I was going to say, I think they must train for this. Because you can see it in where the centre halves are positioned. They're always in that kind of close quarters with Sinisalo so that he can immediately pass to one of them and they can start playing out. But why is that not working? I think he's very, very nervous with the ball at his feet. I think that's the reason why we've not seen him get more starts back when we still had Schmeichel available.
I disagree. I don't think he is nervous with the ball at his feet. I think that's one of his strengths.
Really?
I think that's one of his. I think he had a bad game. I think he had a bad game.
You could be right.
No, I could be wrong. I just think that he's always been quite comfortable with the ball at his feet, but he had a stinker. He had a potential stinker on Sunday. We got lucky twice, and I think the way he went down, the header was a decent enough header for the first goal, but I just think he didn't. I don't think he had a cracking save in the first half. For a corner, point blank header, and he had a cracking save, but. Yeah. I think that, as I say, I think his distribution and the ball at his feet is one of his strengths. But like I say, I think he had an absolute. I don't think he had a good game in Sunday. I think that Tic, I don't understand that, because he's a right-footed player who wants to play in the left all the time, which means he's never going to hit the byline and cross it. He's always going to be wanting to be taking a step inside. It was a cracking recovery save, but he's always going to want to take a step inside to either hit a shot. Whereas what you seen with Forrest just dropped a shoulder, got an extra yard, and just hung a ball up into the back post. Tic never. He couldn't do that, and if he's playing in the left, he can't do that because his left foot's for standing on. So he couldn't do that. I'm no clever like Martin O'Neill, so I don't know. There must be a reason why he doesn't get played wide in the right, in order to hit the byline and hit a cross, but we never do it.
And I'm sure, doesn't he play in the right for Tunisia?
You could be right.
I'm sure I've seen a slap line up with him on the right for Tunisia before as well.
See, in our kind of general play with Celtic, I feel as if we're regressing, and we've been regressing for a while. I genuinely found that Martin O'Neill, the first time this season, the overall play, the style, the movement of the players was more impressive than what we see right now. And it's just every game now is life or death. But taking away the pressure of every game, it's just the performance levels. I don't think maybe Sunday was an enjoyable game because of entertainment we got in extra time. But I feel like our general play is not what it used to be. We had 2 years under Ange, 2 years under Brendan Rodgers, and the kind of the working the triangles, passing it out from the back, the automatic movement. People know, well, if my teammate goes there, then I need to make an angle. I don't see that anymore, and I don't know if it's just because we've brought in so many players and so many players have left that the style has been lost, the rotations have been lost. I just don't see a reflection from the previous years to this year, and it's weird because you've still got a lot of the same players. You've not lost everybody. You've got Callum McGregor for one, who should be dictating terms. Obviously, Engels, it's not his first season, but I feel as if we are shite now at passing it out from the back, and I feel that sometimes it's best if we just go long. Whenever people press us man for man, like St Mirren were doing during the game, we look very, very troubled. I just don't know why things are getting so much worse, and I think we all hold Fotheringham and Sean Maloney up in such high esteem in terms of their motivation, their coaching abilities. I just find it really worrying and concerning. I just don't know why this has happened, why our patterns of play are so quite poor. Because, for example, whenever we used to play the Huns in the past 4 years, they would always be the more physical team. But we would always be comfortable with the fact that if we are allowed to play our game, our technical game, our passing game, it doesn't matter how tall they are or how stronger they are, because our technical ability will always suffice. It'll always overcome whatever they can do. And for those 4 years it worked. But now I don't see that passing Celtic team. And I don't know if it's like, if Rodgers stayed, would we still be seeing this style of play? I don't know if it's, we've had so much animosity this season, so many obstacles with changing managers, coaching staff, injuries, and poor transfer windows. It's just really, really frustrating to see. And between now and the end of the season, it's just win each game, no matter what, by any means necessary. But it's just quite worrying that what we were good at before is no longer our strength, I feel. Or am I being negative? Am I being overreacting here? What do you think?
No, what you rounded off there, Gav, about managerial changes and injuries and all the negativity and all the turmoil. There's no consistency. So, there's no consistency in place for there to be a recognised style of play. So when there's a caretaker in charge, and when you've had so many poor transfer windows, and when there's no settled 11, because let's not forget we don't even have a settled starting 11 right now.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a style of play. There's not going to be a recognised and workable and effective style of play. From one game to the next, things are going to be different. It's either going to be long balls, get it into the opposition's 18-yard box and see what happens, or it's going to be just backs to the wall stuff where we just invite pressure, a la the last time we went to the Bigot Bowl in the cup. It's going to be stuff like that. You can't put your finger on it because there's too many things to point the finger on, if that makes sense.
Aye. There's a lot of things that have worked against us this season, definitely. Aye, I agree. So, James, moving on from the actual game itself, but this sets up the final against Dunfermline, and it's obviously quite romantic. I think we were all really, really pleased to see Dunfermline get past Falkirk and the penalty shootout. So it's now setting us up for a reunion between Martin O'Neill and Neil Lennon. What's your thoughts on that itself? And I guess to a lesser extent, how much of a threat do Dunfermline pose Celtic?
Well, your last point first. They've knocked out Hibs, Aberdeen and Falkirk to get to the final. So there are no mugs, right? Mm-hmm. We have apart from Auchinleck Talbot, we have no won a game in 90 minutes. We were last kick of the ball against Dundee. We were backs to the wall against Rangers, and then St Mirren. So I'm taking nothing for granted for Dunfermline. There's another good reason for it. I think that my worry but something that was in my head was, because obviously, like Maesters, I've got all these permutations going on of how things go in order for us to win the double. And I thought, if Falkirk win, beat Dunfermline nicely, they're going to be in a high when they play us in the first game after the split, and they play the Rangers in the last game if they were in the final, they'd be resting half their team. So that was something that was in my head. I think it was good to hear Neil Lennon referring to Celtic as us and referring to Martin O'Neill as gaffer. Mm-hmm. That was a nice touch. That was a nice touch for Lennon.
Respect.
Aye, definitely. I think that we'll obviously be favourites. But Lennon, for his time with us in Europe and things like that, he's a master at getting teams to perform above themselves, and to who've seen us beating Barcelona. Some of the results under Neil Lennon in Europe were outstanding. So that's the kind of thing that he can do. He can make average players perform above themselves.
On top of that, James, he's won 4 Scottish Cups before?
Aye, won four as a player and 4 as a manager. I think that was the stats.
That's a hell of a record.
Aye.
He does very, very well at Hampden.
Aye, it's like 4 as a player and 4 as a manager he's won, which is really good stats. I think there's a massive imbalance in our team, and I think a massive part of that's in Grin, because he's not a number 10, but he's our most prolific goal scorer all season. So you can't drop him because he scores goals. But I think that the imbalance in our midfield when he's there, it's because he's not a number 10. I don't know what his best position is, but he's not a 10. I mean, Tom Rogic was a 10. And Grin, isn't he? And I just think there's a massive imbalance in our midfield. I think our wingers are very, very hit and miss. I think our strikers absolutely. Who is our striker? As you said earlier, Stevie, I don't know who our best striker is. Martin O'Neill doesn't know our best striker is. I think I said on here a couple of weeks ago, the coaching staff have got to take some responsibility here. Askew at Motherwell turned Paul McGinn and Stephen O'Donnell into football players in a matter of months. Why can we not be turning? What's wrong with our coaching that we seem to be regressing almost on a weekly basis? It's no good to be blaming Martin O'Neill because what he does, but there's got to be something in the coaching that's no happening, because we seem so risk averse. Nobody wants to take the chance of taking that shot or taking that. I don't know. I still think we'll win the double though.
That's what you want. Optimism. It's a fair reflection, because whenever Celtic get a result from nothing or get a result from a turgid game, we give Martin O'Neill a lot of praise, because we say, well, he's not the coach, he's the motivator, he's the guy who uplifts them, and his presence alone. So we give a lot of credit to Martin O'Neill for results, but at the same time, when we see poor performances, we're left wondering what's happened to it. Isn't that Sean Maloney's department and Fothering's department? So I'm probably doing a disservice to the whole coaching collective, the management structure, by praising Martin O'Neill but doubting Maloney and obviously Stevie Woods as well, and Fotheringham. And I'm probably doing them a disservice, but we're not there on the training field. We don't know what happens day to day. And I guess they've probably looked at the situation and just felt, look, we're just going to, it's like a rickety old car who is just trying to get to the finish line in a race, and by hook or by crook, they're going to do whatever they can, sellotape us back together. But it looks like they've exhausted all their skills and abilities as coaches to try to improve us. Maybe it's just for a bit of a broken machine, and come summer, that's when the overhaul will happen. We failed to do it during January, but I think they're just trying to make the best of a bad situation, a bad team, which I hate to say that as a Celtic fan, after seeing as we spoke about 2 years under Ange, 2 years under Brendan, but the turnaround that we have had as a club since the COVID season, how we got back to our very best, and now to see this again, to see us flounder, it's really, really frustrating. But yeah, I guess in terms of your observations on the coaching front, I guess because we're not seeing any improvements, they're probably just doing the best that they can do. They're trying to make the best out of a bad job. I guess one thing I wanted to speak to you about was, because I'm on that line of thought. So can either of you envisage a scenario where Martin O'Neill is the manager next season? Whoever would like to take that one first.
Please God, no.
Yeah, respectfully, no.
Okay, well, what if we did do the double then?
Still no.
No, okay.
Still no. Listen, Martin O'Neill's a hero, right? He's an absolute hero of mine. But he brought in Adamu and Mavuka and Chinchara. He brought them in because remember that was what was said, that was why it was lastminute.com again, because Martin O'Neill had to go and check these players out, and we had to. So these are all signings that Martin O'Neill's and Sean Maloney sanctioned. We nearly paid money for Mavuka.
What about the players that we did try to get? Because there was a press conference, and a journalist says that two particular names. I think one of them was a winger, an exciting looking winger playing in Serie B, and there was some other player as well. And they said, do you think that they're going to be getting signed in the next few days? And I think Martin O'Neill said, you wouldn't be far from the truth with that. And I think we were even looking for Callum Wilson. Is it a case that he might have had his eyes on the right players, but it's other people who are failing to finalise those deals, people like Michael Nicholson, and therefore we had to resort to the people.
Again, it's a club problem, Gavin, rather than just one one person's problem. But, you know, the other one I'd throw at you is Oxlade Chamberlain. From what I read and heard, that was purely a Martin O'Neill motivated signing. And so far, that's another one that's quite frankly been a disaster. I am not seeing the Oxlade Chamberlain that we got from Arsenal or Liverpool 10 years ago. I don't think I'm not delusional. I don't think he was going to be that megastar again. But overall, this is a guy that should be taking the piss out of the midfielders that he's facing on a regular basis in the Scottish Premiership. And right now, he looks like the fucking journeyman Scottish midfielder. And while everybody that he comes up against looks like a guy that's got 20 caps for England. So, you know, you've got to throw that one up as well, Gavin. I think, as well, look, as James said, Martin O'Neill, all-time hero. Martin O'Neill is to me what Jockstein is to my father. You know, that's how high esteem I've got for Martin O'Neill. But respectfully, he's in his mid-70s. Let's not forget he had been out of management for at least 8 or 9 years beforehand. He doesn't have his ear to the ground anymore about modern day coaching, like going to like seminars every week on the continent, which you need to be doing these days. He doesn't have a phone book full of agents with all the hot new prospects ready to find a gem of a player that's up and coming. We need a fresh start, and it needs to be someone who has, you know, still relatively new to management, isn't completely inexperienced. A guy that's had, say, 2 or 3 years somewhere in, I don't know, Portugal or Denmark or Switzerland. He's got to be a guy in his mid-40s who's, you know, built up a reputation of someone who plays good, attractive football. That is a system that works, and has always got a proven record of developing players into someone who, you know, could get signed by a big club. We've got to look at that. I know it ain't easy. Add to the fact, you know, the football market now, both for managers and players, has never been more aggressively competitive, and we don't play in a league that many young ambitious players want to play in. We've got to, that's why qualifying for the Champions League is extra important, because that's the only way we can sign better players. And, you know, and we've also got to remember that whoever the manager is of the club also plays a big factor on who we can sign. So we've got to find someone that we put in place, and there's a very good young player in there who's got high ambitions, up playing the very best leagues in the world. And if he hears that Celtic's coming for him, and he finds out who the manager is, he says, do you know what? Playing at that club with that manager in charge, that might be the guy to get me to that next step and get stepped up to that next level. I don't think that's Martin O'Neill. Not this time.
The only lingering kind of comment I've got to say about the Martin O'Neill thing before we kind of move the conversation on is that I think he was spotted on a scouting mission down in England. Was it like Preston North End or something like that? He was at a game for, and then maybe I'm taking comments out of context here. When he was talking about James Forrest, he said that I would like for James Forrest to be here next season. I would like to see him next season or something like that. And people were suggesting that does that imply that Martin O'Neill sees himself here next season as well? But certainly from the scouting mission. Now, if Martin O'Neill knows that he's not going to be an employee of Celtic next season, then why is he down in England at a game doing a scouting mission? I do wonder. So does that mean that he could be employed by Celtic in one guise or another? Is a director of football, some sort of consultant? We know that we had Gordon Strachan, oddly enough, as a football consultant for a 3-month period to kind of revamp the youth structure. Maybe it's just another strange initiative that Celtic have thought of, even if they don't think that he's going to be the coach next season. But it's a strange move. If he is not going to be with Celtic, why would we have him scouting for us at a match? James, you heard about that, did you?
Aye, I did. And it's not like Celtic to have strange initiatives. Remember Canvas Line? So I love Martin O'Neill. I love Martin O'Neill, but he can't be the manager next year. A head scout, because listen, it's not just the management team we need to revamp. We need to totally revamp the management team. We need to have an actual functioning scouting system, because we don't have that. We had Paul Tidsdale with Football Manager 26. That was what our scouting was. We need to have a functioning scouting network. Right. We need to have a functioning management team that's in line and a board that's going to support that. So if the manager says, I need this and I need this, I understand that we're know what it's hard for us to attract like the top. I get all that, but listen, we've got to appoint somebody that's got a football philosophy, that knows what he wants, a proven track record. I know I could be talking about Ange here, but you know that's a whole other story. It's going to be Robbie Keane. I don't know why we're kidding ourselves on. It's going to be Robbie Keane. It's going to be Robbie Keane.
Yeah.
Which name excites you the most?
This is the thing, Gavin. There's not one that goes. There's none of them that I see and go, yes, please, come on, treble and Champions League, it's coming. There's none of that. None of them are doing that for me.
But did you think that when you seen Angie's name at first?
No, I know. It's
because I didn't either.
Look, our days I've been connected with a guy who has done well at a Premier League club in England. That's got it's like took them from being a mid-table championship club to a mid-table Premier League club in a couple of seasons. That's long gone. Like the days when we were connected with David Moyes and Owen Coyle, that's long gone. It's going to be someone we either don't know or only partially know. I think Robbie Keane, I would be lukewarm about it. At the very least, we know we played for us, so he knows the demands of the club, and he also he won a Nigeria League. Was it Hapoel Tel Aviv?
See,
and he's won.
That it's. I'm sorry, man. It's the Israel thing that puts me off him.
I don't like it either, James. I don't like it either. Like it makes me uncomfortable.
Aye,
and Christ knows what the Green Brigade's going to react like if it happens. But I think that's a conversation for another time, isn't it? I think I just want to look at it. I just want to look purely at the football aspect. The other thing is I don't know what Robbie Keane's football's like. What is it like?
So I watched him against Rangers this season.
Watched
him against Rangers this season. In the Europa League, and they played decent enough football. They played decent enough football. And maybe for a footballing side, if I'm looking at purely football, then maybe I'm thinking I'll give him a shot.
I'm like James as well. I do like the thought of it being Askew, but my one worry is that we're only basing it on one season. At Motherwell.
And he's collapsed.
There you go, and it's starting to fall apart.
They were shocking at the start when he was bringing them into how he played, and then they hit a purple patch for about October to about February and March, and then they've went sans wheel since then. The wheels have came off. So it's like, do you? What's the? Are you going to? I like the way they play football. I like the it reminded me so much of Ange, and I'm thinking to myself, give him better players, and what would they do? But we're basing all this on 12 performances.
Yeah, I also think, see if John McGlynn was 45 years old, his name would be a very, very popular shout.
I heard
Two back-to-back promotions, and then getting into the top 6.
And they play cracking football as well.
Aye.
He did work for us. He worked for us under Brendan.
Aye.
He went to Europe and wrote all the performance analysis for all the teams we were playing in Europe under Brendan.
I think I saw a tweet. Is if he had hair and if he had hair and spoke Italian, he'd have been Celtic manager 5 years ago or something.
Yeah. How old is John McGlynn? Let's find out.
ChatGPT's taking the hammer in your house tonight, Gavin.
Just quickly, I know we need to talk about other stuff, Gavin. The main reason why we can't keep O'Neil long term is because we've already looked stale enough as a club. Aye. We need somebody with some out of the box thinking that can also come in with a fresh look. I think that was another reason why the Ange project was such a success. Aye. Because he had no prior links. He came in with a fresh look. Wasn't a supporter of the club from before, so he didn't have, he thought with his head rather than his heart as well. And he recognised it as an opportunity. He didn't care that the squad was falling apart and needed umpteen new signings. He says, give me what you've got now. I've got some lads in Japan that we can sign who I know can improve the team. And hey presto, it turned out to be maybe the 2 best seasons we've ever experienced as Celtic supporters.
In this generation, aye.
Mm-hmm.
Aye. The plundering of the Japanese market under Ange saved our bacon, and we continue to reap the dividends of that, albeit it's only really Maida who's sometimes pulling up cheese. And John McGlynn, he's 64 years old, so 10 years younger than Martin O'Neill, as it's been pointed out. I just wanted to move on. Stephen, you won't forgive me if I ignore this one. So obviously Sunday, we've got a massive game as Celtic supporters. It was actually on paper quite a big Sunday for football fans, because later on you had the tantalising top of the table clash between Manchester City and Arsenal. And on social media, it turned out that one of the Celtic employees, recently injured, was actually taking in the game down in Manchester. So Kasper Schmeichel had posted an image of himself posing in front of the trophy, and he put it on X. And I can understand the consternation from a lot of Celtic fans that he's still getting a wage from Celtic. If he's not fit enough to play the game, then maybe he should still be hanging about with the squad, and like giving some tips to Sinisalo. But he's obviously enjoying himself down in England. He's still not had the surgery that he needs to. Don't know what's going to happen with him, albeit it's just a matter of weeks before he'll no longer be a Celtic employee. But I understand two sides to the coin with this one. So where do you stand on it?
I'm not one who likes making mountains out of molehills, and I will try my best to be diplomatic about it. I understand Man City is his club. He was trained there as a boy. I know, like guys like Micah Richards and that kind of generation of Man City players. They're all his best pals. He even still lives in England. Again, I'm pretty sure it is just outside Manchester is where he stays. So I understand that that was a big, going to a game like that was a big deal for him. I also appreciate as well that he is injured. He has the right to spend time, catch up with pals and with his family. But I've got to be blunt. What the fuck's he thinking? like you said, Gavin, he is still officially a Celtic employee. And being there was one thing, but then going on the touchline and get a selfie taken with the Premier League trophy. And by the way, Manchester City aren't even the current Premier League champions. Liverpool is. Let's not forget that. And then putting it on Twitter while his current teammates were playing a cup semi-final. That is shitbag behaviour. And I think it says that he doesn't care anymore. He knows his contract hasn't been renewed because he's done. So he's just thinking to himself, Celtic means nothing to me now anymore. And to open up a wee bit more as well, this should put to bed the policy on signing washed up Premier League stars. Because look at them, they don't really care. Schmeichel, I'm not seeing that Oxlade-Chamberlain really cares either. We had the disaster that was Shane Duffy. Iheanacho, he can't stay fit for more than 2 games. The only exception to the rule in recent years has been Joe Hart. He was one, I'll give him his due, that put in the work and knew what it meant to play for Celtic. The rest of them, they can all fuck off. And this has just made me think I've had enough of it. I do not want to see any more washed up English Premier League stars at Celtic anymore, because they're only there because no other club will have them. They're in the dying days of their career. They only want to come here because they might, because they've always got a strong chance of getting a league winners medal to add to the legacy. That's only the reason why they're here. I've had enough of them.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. A lot of good comments. I know that the wisdom that goalkeepers mature later than outfield players, and albeit, yeah, we did get three good years with Joe Hart, and the first year with Kasper Schmeichel was good. Second year has been a bit of a tragedy. And saying it started against Aberdeen in the cup final in the last game of last season.
I defended him for a while as well, Gavin. That's the other reason why it pisses me off so much.
Yeah,
I was defending him more than most people.
That was Brendan's fault though, because he wanted to play. He wanted to play in that. Brendan wanted him to play in that final. Sinisalo should have played in that final because up until his injury, he was outstanding. A definite upgrade on Hart, and Joe Hart was different class. But goalkeeping wise, Schmeichel was an upgrade. Up until his injury, he was an upgrade. And I think somebody in the huddle board, 26 goals he's shipped this year that were just totally Schmeichel. Just totally Schmeichel. That he should have saved 26 goals, and quite a lot of them have cost us points. He's obviously not coming back, and he knows he's not coming back, so it doesn't matter to him. I think the problem with getting these players in England that are winding down their career for England is they think they believe the hype that the English Premiership's so much better than the Scottish Premiership, and they believe that hype, and they think they're going to be able to come up here and coast on a downward, and they're still going to be head and shoulders, and they're not. They're not.
Do you think?
What
do you think it's like FIFA?
Aye, what we lack in quality up here, because we do actually lack in a bit of quality. What we lack in quality up here, the opposition teams kind of make up for in tenacity, aggression, pace. It's a different game we play,
and it's another reason why I like Joe Hart so much. He said that in interviews with English press. He says, like, I know you think that it's a pub league, etc.
It's not.
Trust me, you will get, if you are not on it, you're going to get smashed and quick.
And you know, Joe Hart, he bowed out at the right time.
100%. Yeah. At that time, he had a dodgy spell around about Christmas Days last year, if you recall. I think that was when Clermont went on Clermont's Rangers went on a run and culminating in them beating us 3 each at Ibrox. and so he had a dodgy spell around about Christmas in that year, and then he came back onto his game, and he retired. And you're right, it was at 100% the right time. But Joe Hart's humble. He's got class. He was a decent keeper. Did he play the ball out with his feet as well? No, but a lot of time for Joe Hart, a cracking professional. But apart, take Joe Hart out. How many other players have come up for England on short-term deals and been Joey Barton, who was the Championship's Player of the Year, signed for Rangers, and it wasn't just Scott Brown that was pissing on him. There was other, I mean, even worse than Oxlade-Chamberlain, right?
Kenny McLean influenced the in a game, and he was at Aberdeen, I remember.
100%. It was just, there's so many have come up here thinking that this is just Scotland. We'll be able to walk this league.
Freddie Lundberg, reportedly barely trained.
Aaron Ramsey, although let's
no, he's a hero.
Bless Alan Ramsey. Let's bless Aaron Ramsey.
Speaking about one former ex-pro of Celtic, Scott Brown was also getting some backlash from Celtic fans. So I assume both of you heard it. I'm going to kind of paraphrase it, but he was talking about Celtic fans, and he said that we expect the board to go out and spend 20 million on one new player. Now, I've read comments from people in Axom who are part of the Axom group, and I bring them up because if Scott comments were taken out of context, then they would be the first to defend them, and they haven't defended him. I've heard people like John Dykes and the John Yogi Hughes Jr. Who have kind of criticised it. John Yogi Hughes has certainly went in two-footed. John Paul Dykes a wee bit more diplomatic, but yeah, both of them criticising the comments. Now, a lot of Celtic fans are saying that, well, Scott Brown is obviously kind of nailed his colours to the mast, and he's auditioning for a job at Celtic Park. Maybe they see that he might be brought in as a new coaching staff for the new manager, whoever that might be, Robbie Keane. Either way, regardless of that, I just think it's completely disingenuous. Why would you come out with something like that? Well, literally, I know that you got a lot of Celtic podcasts, a lot of Celtic opinions across the social media. So yes, you do get a fair share of idiots. Me, I am no exception. But I don't think anybody has ever said, I want 20 million on a new player. No, it just does not happen. So if you're going to criticise Celtic fans, then at least try and be accurate. There's plenty of things probably to criticise us on. We're not all perfect. We might have some kind of radical opinions, but to say that when it's just such a complete falsehood is really, really quite disappointing. None more so disappointing than the fact that Scott Brown is held in such high esteem as being one of the greatest Celtic captains in this century, never mind in Celtic's history. Scott Brown never started out as a Celtic fan, but he endeared himself to the fans, and he left as a legend. Now, to come out with comments like that, it's just misguided. I don't know where he's coming from. Really quite disappointing, and neither has he backtracked upon it. James, thoughts?
So, yeah, it's ridiculous. I freely admit.
Vultures. That was the word they used. Vultures. Yeah.
Vultures. Aye, classed as vultures. I mean, I'm an idiot, right? Because I'm somebody that will pick my that's swithering a manager because he used to manage in another country that I'm not keen on. So I'm an idiot. But I don't know any Celtic fan that said once we need to sign a £20 million player. We maybe want to spend £20 million on players, right? And we should be spending that on players. But there's no one of us that wants to spend £20 million on a player. It reminded me of Neil Lennon saying earlier on in the season that the Celtic board done everything and blah blah blah. They were the greatest and they were so supportive and blah blah blah. And it's just like don't piss in my pocket and tell me it's fucking raining.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like that's no real. It just it's a further thing to try and divide the support, because there's a wide the diaspora of our support, and some people believe that the board are okay, and then you've got other people that believe they're charlatans, and saying things like that just puts more of a wedge in the support. And when we're trying to, we need to come together for the next 5 games. I'm not going to be criticising people for doing what they're doing, whatever they're saying, because we need to come together as Celtic supporters for the next 5 games. Try and drive the team over the line. Rangers, Hearts, Falkirk, 3 home games, 3 really, really important home games. I think if we win, I think if we beat Rangers, because I think Rangers will beat Hearts. So if Rangers beat Hearts and we beat Rangers, we go top of the league. As long as we win against Falkirk and Motherwell, right? Obviously, if we lose, drop points, they might forget it. But if we beat Falkirk and then we beat Motherwell, and then we beat Rangers in the 3rd game,
we've got it's Falkirk, Hibs, and then Rangers.
Hibs, sorry, you're right. Motherwell's the 2nd last game. You're right. Sorry, Gavin. So if we win, we're 2 games and then beat Rangers. I think Rangers will beat Hearts, or I don't think Hearts will take full points from Hibs and then Rangers. I don't think they'll take 6 points for the 2 games, which means that we go top of the league if we beat Rangers.
Right.
Yeah. All I just want to say on it, Gavin, is I mean, like James, I'm the, I don't know myself from my elbow. I'm thick as mince at the best of times. Gavin, you know that from the few years that you work for me. But at the same time, I'm not a fantasist. I'm not delusional. I've already said it in this podcast. We don't play in a league, and we don't have the marketable appeal of being able to sign a player that would be valued at 20 million. So I know that ain't happening any time soon. So you're right in what you said. I've never heard any Celtic supporters say that we should be signing that guy. It took who theoretically is worth 20 million. I don't know, fucking.
Because the reality is,
we're talking about a guy who plays for what, Bayern Munich or something like that.
We couldn't afford
that ain't happening.
Because see a £20 million player, a £20 million player once paid 70 or 80 grand a week. We couldn't afford that. And again, I've said in this podcast before, we can't have a player of Alistair Johnson and a player of equal ability at right back. There needs to be a drop off because we can't keep these players happy playing games. We can't do that. I don't think. Larson once said. Larson once said that one of the reasons he loved Celtic Park was because we were an extremely knowledgeable fan base. We're no stupid. We know we want more ambition for the board. We want more ambition pushing on when we're ahead, but that doesn't mean we want them to spend every single penny that we've got and go into debt. None of us want that. None of us want to have a 2012 the Rangers scenario, right, where we die. We want this to be run.
Meet us in the middle. Meet us in the middle. That's what we were asking for.
I said in work a couple of weeks ago, see if we had £100 million in the bank and the Huns had £100 million in the bank, we would spend 50 and they would spend 150. And we are maybe that's why our team's so risk averse, because our board is so risk averse. I think it was incredibly disingenuous for Scott Brown, and he'd been doing an awful lot of podcasts, like you said, Gavin. Recently, he's been doing a lot of podcasts as if he was positioning himself to get in the new Celtic setup, and I think that was poor judgment.
And what I would like, just final point I want to make on it, Gavin, is Scott Brown. He better be very he should be very, very pleased that he didn't play, or did play for a club that wasn't able to sign 29 players. Because if he could, he wouldn't have got nearly as much game time for us as he would have. Because I want to be clear, he was a very good player for us. One of the best captains we had in the modern era. Helped us win lots of trophies and was arguably the face of the club for several years, and I'm very, very grateful to him, and I thank him for everything that he done for Celtic. But Scott Brown, you were not a £20 million player, you were a £5 million player. If Celtic were able to sign £20 million players, you wouldn't have been in the team, you'd have been on the bench most weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd like to put that up to him as well.
Yeah, aye. I just hope that it's an isolated incident from Scott Brown, because I don't want to continue to think ill of him. So I hope it's a one-off. I hope he doesn't continue that. If he is going to get further media exposure, then I hope he thinks carefully about what he's going to say. But okay, so guys, it's been a really good episode tonight. We've obviously recounted the memorable win against Mirren, and we've spoken about some of the talking points of that, about managers and things like that. I guess the next thing just to look forward to is the first game post-split, and thankfully we're starting off at Parkhead. It's an evening kickoff, Saturday 5:30, and we've got Falkirk. So we've talked about John McGlynn. Well, he's coming back, so they're obviously out the Scottish Cup. They've just got the league, and yeah, well, it'll be another difficult opposition, because there's going to be no easy games here, and they're quite an energetic team. So I'd imagine we'll always be hoping and predicting a positive result for Celtic. But I guess what we can start off is a lineup. So Sinisalo in defence. James, who would be your defence? Sinisalo in goals. And who would be your back four? Now, I heard that Alistair Johnson, that cup game was just a wee bit too early for him. Would you start Alistair Johnson, or would you continue with Ralston?
I'd probably continue with Ralston, but bring Johnston on, get him minutes so that he's ready for Rangers game. But I'd probably start with Ralston, because I don't want him to be coming on and then breaking down. So give him the last 15 minutes, give him some minutes, then maybe against Hibs, give him the last half hour or something like that, get minutes in his legs so that he's ready for the Rangers game. So my defence kind would be Ralston, Trusty, Scales, and I would like Sirachi, but it's going to be Tierney.
Do you think Tierney struggled in that game though?
I think he, And I think I said in this podcast a while ago, when he plays well, Celtic play well. But I think he's really struggled. It looks as if sometimes looks as if he's ready to hit a bit of form, and then it doesn't happen. So I would play Sirachi, but obviously Martin O'Neill trusts Tierney. So I think Tierney will start. I think that'll be the starting defence.
Okay. So Stephen, midfield, over to yourself.
Engels, definitely. I know there was a very well-known Celtic podcast. Their kind of headline was, should McGregor be dropped? Now, he won't be, but I'm not against him being dropped. But they'll keep him in just because he's a club captain. One of the guys I spoke to at the game and Sunday, we both said pretty much the exact same thing. McGregor is a necessity, not a want. So it will be McGregor, and the other one will be Negrin. It will essentially be the same three from Saturday. And look, I'm not against it. We've got to keep some kind of consistency with the starting lineups, and I think midfield is where it's at just now, because Oxlade-Chamberlain's not doing it for me. Luke McCowan, he's
every inch the Dundee player.
Yeah. I don't. He's like me from Greenock, a lifelong Celtic supporter. It's brilliant seeing that, but he is a squad player who only gets signed to keep with the domestic player quota for Europe. That's it. That's the only reason why he's there.
Listen, I'm a lifelong Celtic supporter, and nobody would like to see me in the starting lineup.
Right, well, in the attacking third, we've spoken about some players who appear to be more efficient as impact subs. So I guess you guys can help me through this one. I would imagine Maida will be nailed on as a starter, probably on the left wing. Yang is his jersey between now and the end of the season, I would imagine, despite the heroics of James Forrest. So I'd imagine Yang again in the right wing. So if it is a case of Maida on the left, then we've got Ian Nacho, who did well, but he can't last the full game. Chfan Chara, who we all probably agree is quite shite. He's really offered next to nothing.
He's a likeable shite player.
I can't hate him. I can't hate him. He's shite, right? I can't. He's shite. You're right. But I can't hate him. That's a character flaw on my part, I think.
And have I missed anyone? Ian Nacho, Chfan Chara.
Aye. How dare you forget Adamu?
Adamu, who he never came off the bench, but he was on the bench, which is massive progress in his eyes. So, guys, who's the missing link? Who's the centre forward for the game against Falkirk at Parkhead this Saturday?
I don't know.
I bet you he starts Chinchara.
I think it could be the case, yeah, if he's fit.
I bet you he starts Chinchara. He brings Iheanacho on for the last 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Iheanacho is the break in case of an emergency.
I think that. Listen, I think Iheanacho is our best number 9, right? By a distance, he is our best number 9. But I don't trust that he can last 90 minutes, 5 games in the bounce. And is he needed more for Falkirk, or is he needed more for Rangers and Hearts? I think he's a player that we're going to have to manage to the end of the season to try and get the best out of him for the most amount of minutes.
Well, apart from the last two games of the season, so obviously we played at the weekend. We've got a full week's rest, and we've got this week's game against Falkirk. We've got another 7 days until we play Hibs, and then we've got another 7 days before we play Rangers. So it's just one game per week at the moment. I totally agree with you that Iheanacho's not going to last 90 minutes. But is it a case there that nobody will be surprised whatsoever if we bring on Iheanacho midway through the second half for Chfan Chara because we need a winner? Nobody will be surprised at that scenario because we find ourselves in that position every game now. Every game. But we're making subs because we need to win the game, and what we went out with has not been good enough. But
we're all talking about Iheanacho right now because he was really good when he came on against a St Mirren defence that had Maeda running at them for 75 minutes, right? We need to remember what Iheanacho looked like against Dundee United. He stunk the place out. He stunk the place out against Dundee United. He started. Now maybe he just didn't have enough minutes in his legs, and he's got a lot fitter, and maybe he is the right person to start. After what I said about Martin O'Neill no being the manager next year, I would trust him if I looked at the team lines on Saturday and Iheanacho's up front. I'll trust Martin O'Neill that he's seen that enough in training that's what he's done. But it would be debate. I'd bring him on.
The other scenario here for P. McLaughlin, thank you for your comments tonight. The other kind of scenario is Yang, Maida, and Forrest. Forrest is like a safe pair of hands when the ball is at his feet, but defensively he doesn't have the engine. And Falkirk are a very energetic team, so I think if Forrest is playing right wing, then the player who'll be buzzing by him is Calvin Miller, a former Celtic academy player who very, very energetic, a good talented player, and it'll be Anthony Ralston on his own to kind of defend against that overlap. So maybe we're right. Maybe we start off with Chfan Chara, and we hope to God that he can actually put in a performance and then maybe we can bring on Iheanacho with half an hour to go when we're already 2 goals up. That would be ideal. But either way, I think it'll be another kind of tough game. I don't, apart from that Sunday there where we scored 6, I don't envisage it to be a high scoring game. I think it'll just be another kind of white knuckle ride. Anybody got a score prediction for the game, Stephen?
A scrappy 3-1. We'll make it, because we always do, we'll make it harder on ourselves than we need to. But the Martin O'Neill cheat code will kick in again, and we'll get out a 3-1.
Okay. And maybe Nygren will add to his 20 goal tally for the season. James, where do you stand? The result prediction?
I think it'll be tighter than that. I'm thinking 2-0, 2-1. I think what I said last time you and I were on, Gavin, we win every game from now on, 1-0, and we'll win the league. And so I'd take a scrappy 1-0 coming off of Callum McGregor's arse when he trips and falls over, and that's it. I'll take that. But I think it'll be 2-1, maybe 2-0. But I can't. Us keeping a clean sheet, that would be almost worth celebrating.
That's a bonus in itself. I bet Casper and Sinisalo have basically earned next to nothing for clean sheet bonuses this season. And as you say, like, if we were to win every game between now and the end of the season 1-0, you would take that. Can your heart take that? I don't think.
No.
I don't think anyone's can.
No. But how many games this season have we won in the last 10 minutes? I mean, I'm actually only 22, right? that's what this season's done to me. That's what this season's done to me.
Yeah. It's been an aging process over this season anyway. Right, guys, so really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for to everybody in the comments for tuning in, for getting involved. So we will be back next Tuesday, and maybe you might see McGinty, maybe you might see young James. I think young James is quite put out right now because his managerial hopeful for Celtic was Marco Rose, but he's just went to
somebody gave him counselling now, I think.
Aye. Even Bournemouth, like they had Iraola, who if we went for him whenever we interviewed him, what was it, 2 seasons ago? You know, that would have been very, very interesting, really attractive playing style, and maybe a different type of players that he would have brought in. But I think Iraola's stock is probably went up right now. The fact that
his missus wants to go home. His missus wants to go home as well.
Oh, really?
Well, I felt he's with Real Madrid.
No, I'd hear his missus wants to go home.
Aye, that'll be interesting.
But then maybe Madrid's a nice one.
I wonder, has there ever been a Basque manager, a manager of Basque origins like Iraola is, who's ever taken over Real Madrid? Would that kind of conflict with their principles, or as a football professional, do you kind of look past that? Interesting. Right. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Right. To everybody, thank you again, and to Stephen and James, thank you so much. And hopefully next Tuesday we'll be talking about 1 win down and 3 more games to go. Right. So, cheerio. God bless.